Hey, welcome to the May 28th, 2024 meeting of Henderson County Fiscal Court. We're glad you're with us. And for those of you watching online, we're glad you're with us as well. We'll begin as we always do with a prayer. If you'll join me in saying an invocation, please stand. Dear Heavenly Father, please watch over this board as we try to make good decisions for our community. Please watch over Henderson County and its citizens, especially our first responders, healthcare personnel. Please watch over our men and women in uniform, both here and abroad. We say these things.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Measure Tompkins.
Here.
Measure Putman.
Here.
Measure Berry.
Here.
Measure Starks.
Here.
Measure Southard is absent.
Gentlemen, you have in your packets the minutes of the May 13th special called meeting, the May 14th regular meeting of Fiscal Court, and the May 23rd special called meeting. After a period of review, I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Judge, I move, can we do them all at once?
Yeah.
I move we approve all sessions.
We have a motion and a second to approve those sets of minutes. Any other clarifications, corrections, additions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Hey, we have a busy agenda, and we'll get right into it. First, we'll start Harry Pedigo and Brittany Smith from our Henderson County Homeless Coalition and the Daniel Patino Shelter.
Hello.
Good morning.
Harry may show up momentarily. He is stuck in Owensboro. I do apologize. He also runs 2 shelters, and with the holiday weekend, I think maybe had one quick thing that caught him. But we are here today to talk about the homeless case manager for the Henderson County Homeless Coalition. You guys have a lot of paperwork in front of you. I won't bore you with all of that paperwork. I am just going to go over the one-pager, essentially, as we'll call it. And that pretty much explains the case manager in detail. You can see the overview of the job is to provide comprehensive housing-focused services to economically disadvantaged individuals and families, including those experiencing and or at risk of homelessness in Henderson City and County, including those struggling with homelessness due to substance abuse disorder. Our goal is to acquire or maintain safe, healthy, affordable housing for those people. And then you can see the focus job areas that are listed below. I mainly just took the job description, kind of made those a little bit easier for you guys. And then do have to thank my Chief Operations Officer, Matt Reynolds. He is much more of a numbers mind than me, so he made this beautiful graph here about how the revenue will work. And as you can see, we're asking the city and county to both match each other. The base salary for 1 year you can see below there. And then anyone that knows Matt knows he likes approximations. So he even backed us into everything else. And that payroll administration should be exact. We did look up what Davis County's, that occupational tax. We did look up what Davis County's occupational tax was before we did that one as well. So that's how we got to that total of $40,000 between the 2 entities. And then if you go to the back, we believe that this case manager is a good fit for some of the opioid money that has been coming into some of the counties. And so if you look on the back, the substance abuse and opioid addiction focus areas are listed there. The VI SPDAT is a well-known tool. Matthew 25 has used it for years. The Patino Shelter and also St. Benedict's has used it. It's used across the nation as a housing stability tool. You also have client assessment and intake on there, client paperwork documentation, ongoing case management, client support, program support and operations. The big one that we felt was a very good fit for the opioid and or substance abuse, whichever one you want to refer to it as, were the service referrals. where our case manager will assist in helping clients gain access to addiction and substance abuse disorder services, such as the Warm Center, which is here, Mark, which is the men's version, it's in Bowling Green. There is an RDC program in Owensboro. There is an ARC services throughout the state of Kentucky. And of course, we're very lucky to have River Valley here. We've got Lighthouse, the Port, which we're also very lucky to have here. And there are a lot of local Al-Anon, Nar-Anon meetings as well, which are for the families of the people that are affected by substance abuse and opioid abuse as well. So I will kind of leave it up to questions with you guys. I want to leave you guys a lot of time because I know we've come and spoken about this quite often. Like I said, I won't bore you with all the stuff. You guys do have a copy of the MOU. The MOU would be between the Homeless Coalition of Henderson and the Patino Shelter. And the reason we went out to the Patino Shelter is they are experts in this area. We are not those experts. But the person would be here, and we actually, as soon as we leave here, go pick up keys from Bobby Jarrett, who we want to say a giant thank you to. She is giving us free office space for this person to be able to work out of. So, and then Habitat is donating all of the office furniture and some other computers and equipment as well. So it's been a huge community effort, and we really appreciate you guys letting us come today, and I'll leave plenty of time for questions for you guys.
Brittany's been to, and Melissa have been to city-county cooperative group meetings to further flesh this out. And one of the things we wanted to look at was using opioid funds to potentially help with this, and the substance abuse and opioid addiction kind of rundown of services, referrals, intakes, case management. This really helps. I appreciate that, and I hope it truly is part of the mission. We also had talked about the fact that Daniel Patino Shelter would like a 3-year commitment, and we aren't allowed to make commitments beyond your current terms, but we can, if we choose, front all 3 years of the requested money this year. And with an MOU between the Patino Shelter, the city, and the county, make sure we delineate how that is to be used. I assume you're going to be speaking to the city this
Yes.
afternoon with this same request?
Yes.
So they have not fully committed yet. They're waiting to hear this formal presentation. Yeah.
They have received the same paperwork that you guys received. We
Okay.
sent that to the mayor and then also to the city attorney as well to
Okay.
look over that too. And I do know the Patino Shelter has a particular lawyer that they use in Owensboro, so if we need to get all the legal minds together, which is not me, on the MOU, we can also do that too.
There would need to be an agreement, a particular funding agreement. Now, which section of KRS 15.291, the one that says how the opioid money can be spent, which particular one of those do you think this program covers?
I would say the most that this one covers is getting them, directly to the service. If you look inside the substance abuse and opioid addiction focus areas on the back, you can see that we're willing to ride transportation, which is a huge roadblock for some people who want to take or need to take some of these services, especially to Mark, that you can't just walk over to Bowling Green. And education is another big one. Program support and operations, as you see at the bottom, that Kentucky HMIS is actually a national system. So if someone came to our community from another area, if they've ever been on the HMIS system, say out in California, we can still see anything that's ever been put in the HMIS system. Ours just has KY in front of it. Every state has their, 2-letter code in front of it. But we'll have a lot of statistics, a lot of data, and I know that on opioid, it's really driven by what, beyond the stories, what we can also prove back that we're using this money for.
It's all about that.
Yes, yes.
So as you know, and we've discussed this before, the statute has a specific list of things the money can be
Yes.
spent for. Which specific one of those do you think this falls under, one or more? Okay, that's going to be very
the thing.
important.
And that's the thing with Harry, that's why Harry knows exactly where that stands. We were hoping Harry could
Okay.
be here today because he informed us that they are using state opioid money in Davis County.
For this same type position.
For areas in sheltering, for what the Patino shelter is doing. So their street outreach, case management work is being done through that. But that's coming, I don't know, and that's why I wish Harry was here today. He informed us that they are receiving money through the state. He's also doing something out of Bowling Green, if I'm not mistaken.
The
by
rules
what
are
he said.
similar between the
and-
opioid settlement,
Yes,
between the
yes.
state
And-
and local. I just
Yeah.
want to make sure we
And-
fall under one of those with this specific project.
Yeah, that's definitely a Harry situation since he's already dabbling in that and already working through that program. So I don't want to answer that question without being 100% positive where he's at. Because
Sure.
again, this person, this case manager's falling under him and his organization and what their work is going to be, which case management for us over here is going to be mainly that street outreach program.
Well, ultimately, when it comes to spending this money,
Mhm.
it's the county that will have
Right. Yes.
issues with the state if we don't spend it
Exactly.
according to the rules. So I'm trying to make sure we're
He needs to
doing
be the
that.
one to answer that question fully.
Do you know what percentage of the people that, the individuals that case managers like this have contact with do have opioid addiction issues or substance abuse
He
issues?
informed us in our Zoom conversation 2 weeks ago that the percentage right now is high. He did not have his number, but what they are seeing right now in their street outreach program is more than 50% of the people that they are working with on the street that are considered homeless have some type of substance abuse issue, whether that be drug, alcohol, over-the-counter medication, pills, things like that. But again, those are, here in Henderson, we don't have we couldn't give you those numbers as of right now.
When we went to both the Harbor House and to the Women and Children's Shelter, once we went through our reports from the K-Count, both of them, their top 3 reasons for people coming there, one of those were drug and substance abuse addiction. And when we actually met with the Father Belly Shelter, one of their biggest issues right now is methamphetamines, which they had shared with us. So we do know that substance abuse and opioid abuse is, on the rise in the community as well. But I would say education is the biggest one. If you read through, the case manager, it's making sure that they're educated in a lot of areas of their life, which we know all of those areas together are going to affect substance abuse or ways to get out of substance abuse.
So on the education piece, how does your program overlap with the STOP program?
We would work closely with them.
How much overlap is there between the two, if you're both focused on education?
Our education would be more one-on-one with adults. I know some of theirs is going into the schools. If they needed assistance from this person, could be a second person to go to the schools with them. But ours is more field work, going out into the woods. If Judge Schneider calls and says, I've gotten a report, I've gotten a call that there is somebody staying out in such and such place, this case manager is going to go out there and talk with that person directly. It's boots on the ground is the best way I can explain it.
Thank you.
We do have the option, to get to that point, of using other funds other than opioids to fund this if we want to, but
I have one question, Steve, you made me think. What is the difference? Because Harry mentioned to us, and again, I'm not an expert in this area, especially around this opioid money. He is not, and I could be wrong, that's why I don't want to misspeak, but he alluded to us that he is getting money directly from the state, not necessarily the county.
Correct.
For that money. Okay.
Basically, what happened is counties got involved in lawsuits suing some of these distributors of opioids for putting too many into certain communities. And then the state came in and said, hey, it looks like you all are doing really well in this lawsuit. We're going to pass a law that says we get half the money. That's pretty much just how it, basically, Big Brother came in and took half the money. So the rules are essentially the same. It's the same money because the statute that puts a lot of these restrictions on the money most of that language is coming directly from the settlement documents of the lawsuits. That, it was worked out and agreed to, and it's a court order that says, okay, these funds are to be distributed to these localities and to these states, and it'll be done, it'll be targeted for very specific things. And that's why there's I think, 29 different things that it can fall under, but they're all very specific. And we just want to make sure that this particular program will fall under it, even if something else that the Patino Shelter is doing in Owensboro that's different falls under it. That doesn't mean everything the Patino Shelter does falls under it. We want to make sure this particular program will pass muster there, because we don't want to have to repay back that money.
And I wanted to make sure too, in my mind, that what he was doing wasn't different than what you all are talking about and that's, again,
And it may be,
the
the state has lots of different pockets of
That's
money, but if
right.
it's opioid settlement money, it should be the same, if not similar,
Okay.
rules.
I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Any other questions?
So is the case manager going to come and provide us an update of successes, lessons learned, gaps, things like that, and what's the frequency?
Whatever you want the frequency to be is when they will come. They will have, through the VI-SPDAT, that word does not roll off the tongue, and the KYHMIS systems, those systems automatically create all that data, because whenever you're out in the field, I came and I found you somewhere and I did a complete report with you, that's all that, those analytics are added together. So they'll have the analytics for you, they'll be able to tell you individual things if that's what you're asking. They will, I assumed you at least want to see them quarterly. I think that's how often the
Yeah, I'm just looking for
the
a way
person's coming.
to understand, see what how the monies are effective, and if we need to shift focus or do something different.
And that would need to be spelled out in
Agreed, agreed. Yes, sir.
frequency of reports, what detail you want.
Yes, sir, I agree.
And the MOU would also spell out the exact sections of the KRS that we believe it falls.
It's going to have to. That's why I was asking those questions,
Yeah.
because there'll have to be
And we
some
can.
whereas clauses. And some of those things are going to have to be things like whereas X percentage of homeless people in the area are struggling with opioid addiction. It would be nice to know that number. Whereas X percentage of people being housed at the women's shelter or the Harbor House are, struggling with opioid addiction. It would be nice to have those numbers, because the more of that detail you can put in the MOU, when somebody is reviewing it, they can say, okay, this program is targeted at dealing with opioid addiction. It's not another program that's a really great program that they just kind of threw in some opioid
Right.
stuff. That's
Yeah.
the problem. And, I think to pass muster, it needs to really be focused in on opioids as much as possible. And the more we can put in there, the more detail, facts, figures, the better.
Yes, and both local shelters are happy to work with us to get that information. And I do apologize, I didn't bring my K-count slide today, but I do have those exact numbers from our K-count, because people were asked what led you to needing to use our homeless shelters. So we do have an exact number for
I knew you had some of
for
that
that.
data. I was hoping
Yes,
we could
of
make
course,
a
that's the
record
one
of that
binder I
today.
didn't bring with
Yeah.
me today. And I don't want to give you numbers off the top of my head, because I'm afraid they would be wrong, but we do have those from our most recent K-count.
Judge, would it make sense we table this till we receive more information?
Right, we didn't anticipate a vote today.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
the presentation's going to be made to the city this afternoon. What I would suggest is after you make that presentation, we have another meeting of the city-county work group fairly quickly to get our heads together on what we want to do after that. And we're going to be amending into our budget, current budget, some opioid funds in order to utilize them if we decide to, towards the end of June. So we have a little time to flesh out any details in the MOU if it gets that far.
And-
So does that sound okay?
Yes, and that's why we wanted to get everything in front of you guys now. We knew this was not just going to be like, let me write you a check today.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure this is all correct and in order, and as Mr. Gold said, we definitely want to make sure that we have all the analytics, everything else that the KRS and the funding is, needs us to have in place before we just hit the ground running.
A lot of information that I've seen online and stuff, and I sat in on a short class on the thing, it's just so much gray, and if they don't even Rich Orenstein was doing one of the classes, and he kind of left you hanging, didn't really get real specific on any of it.
And we have been working with Shay Raybold, Summit Kentucky Housing Corporation, too. So we may reach back out to her and see what other places have used this and see if, on your question, Steve, if I can get you a little bit more examples as well from other counties of exactly what they're doing to. Kentucky Housing Corporation didn't have any funding of their own, but they have been part of legislation in many counties. So we'll get Shay involved as well.
Well, good luck this afternoon, and give us a
Thank you.
quick report on how it goes. You can send me an email, and then we'll schedule that city-county work group meeting.
We will. Thank you. And thank you, Kurt, for getting everybody my massive packet here. He said, don't pass that out. Everybody already has a copy.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Report Director Ben Weithman, who is here to ask us for a bit of help with his Board of Directors.
Good morning.
Just very quickly, the Riverport was formed in 1970. I think we found the ordinance. It was not numbered. That's kind of how old it is. And we're requesting, there's a residency requirement that you live in Henderson County. And two things we do, and that have probably changed since 1970, is one, we're very much part of the economic development process. Two, our customers and what we call our draw area has expanded quite a bit. But I think most important is the fact that, and I don't want to sound braggadocious at all because it's the board, but we do require or have a need of people with a very particular expertise. Board doesn't just have citizen members because the kind of work we do requires knowledge of riverport facilities, knowledge of river transportation, and let's face it, there's just, even among the business community, there are quite a few that have limited or no experience in that area. And so our need is a little more particular than some of other boards. So we're requesting that you allow us to draw from a little broader area to have board members that would qualify to serve on the board. Knowing that regardless, there's maybe some concern we get too many outsiders, but the board nominates and the judge appoints. So, and the judge can appoint or not appoint you without any reason. So there's a checks and balances to control and ensure that we're still locally governed and strongly have local oversight. So I don't think there should be an issue. The state allows it. It's not, we're not restricted to Henderson County. It's just something back in the day that made sense, but as we move forward, we grow, we get into a little more, particularly with the economic development, the industrial revenue bonds we can issue, a little more complicated, and we really do need a level of expertise for our board. So my request is we lift the residency requirement so that we can broaden our population of potential individuals to serve on our board.
So in discussing this with Ben earlier, as he said, it can be difficult for the Riverport to get qualified board members. And I know there are other boards that we have that also require a bit of expertise, at least a familiarity with the subject matter before they get appointed. And the other quick concern was, if we approve this for the Riverport, is there a, where does it end with other organizations, perhaps? Just throwing that out there because
Certainly.
It's a concern. I'd welcome any of the fiscal court's input on that idea, because we do want to make sure that the Riverport Board is as good and effective as it can be, while also understanding that the residency requirement, for all these boards that have one, is there for a reason, and to I guess, for want of a better term, protect the county's interests in decision-making.
Well, I would offer up, I haven't heard of any issues before with getting our residents to serve on these boards. So, is there
And
something?
I appreciate
I
it. Well,
mean,
some of the things that have changed is, so not only is our customer base, who we provide the materials that come through the port, But our real customers are the people who ship stuff to us. I mean, they're the ones that typically are writing the checks to the port. Those have become very international based as we bring more imports in. And so again, knowledge of that whole industry has become a little more complicated. But I can't speak to that. I've been here about a year and a half, so I can't, the pool is unknown to me. But the board did express concern, and we have a particular individual that is an excellent board member, has served, is coming up on a renewal, and we'd very much like to maintain him. He just recently moved to Owensboro, but we think there's a very likely possibility he comes back the next couple of years. But he's an outstanding member of the board, and we'd very much like to retain him. And he's very pro Henderson, as a matter of fact. So it's not but I can appreciate your all's concern for sure. And again, there is checks and balances to ensure. The board has to nominate you. Those are Henderson people for the most part, probably always will be. And then, of course, the judge makes the final appointment. So if we feel like I've just come to you and said, I've got a guy out of Vincennes, well, the board's probably going to be like, I don't think so. And the judge probably certainly would say no. So I think there's controls, but I just feel like our need dictates us requesting you to consider it.
Steve, can you just say there's one, this may not be possible, but the board with one person outside of Henderson, can you put that restriction on, or no, probably not? Just a thought.
I don't know, you open up Pandora's box. I don't.
It's, yeah.
It is a 6-member board, so I don't, some boards say you have people from this section, people from this sector, has to make up the board. I'm not opposed to it. Like I said, I don't ever see it being a huge number, but I feel like the resources, we have 3 or 4 individuals that are maybe in the glide path to rotating out, more so than we've had in probably 20 years. I know at least 3 of them have been here, been on the board for almost 25, even 30 years. So we don't change over a lot, but we are coming up at a time when we have some individuals that might have some different priorities in their life than serving on the board.
So what studies or what have you, what are you looking to, you expect this to help with your growth, expansion, staying current? What are we getting for this? What are we getting by getting people outside?
An understanding. So when I'm coming to them with a potential project where we're going to invest a significant amount of money, understanding why would we do that, what's the long term, the economics of the river traffic and the business on the river, and just having that level of expertise to be able to say, yeah, okay, this makes some sense, or there's a lot of finance involved, so we have adequate people with that skill set, but there's heavy logistics, and not just trucking it from point A to point B. Most of what we handle would be barge and rail and truck, and it really just facilitates guidance and understanding, as I explain something, guidance from them as they offer me, hey, head down this path. And having those resources is pretty important, because most of what we do, if we're going to make an investment, it's, we want to replace a forklift, it's $100,000. We want to build a dock, it's $4 million. We want to do any kind of rail work, probably well into $1 million. So our infrastructure investments are significant, and they're expected to last 25, 30 years. So we want to make sure we're making the right decisions.
Well, I get that. I know there are also consultants that can help do that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just looking to see what kind of, I don't know if you had something that said, yeah, we expect to be able to grow, we expect this to help us by X amount of percentage. So that was my question, what we're getting out of that. So
sure, and then looking at our long-term planning documents, that would be certainly having the local Henderson, but having people in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Say, for example, we ship a lot to Madisonville. We ship down to Hopkinsville. But I'd say Madisonville might be a good example. Hopkins County, having somebody in the logistics business at, say, Barry, would be very
Yep.
beneficial to us.
And I'm not against it, I'm just looking for
Sure.
data to make an informed decision. Why is it better? You know what I mean? I can hear you say it,
Mhm.
but I like to see it. I like to look at it myself too, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I would,
Maybe show me somewhere that's done this versus what
As
this has. I'm just saying this is kind of a blind decision on my part.
Let me ask this. The driving, the thing that's driving this is we got a gentleman from Henderson County that's moving to Davis County, and you want to retain him.
that was what
And his
prompted the
expertise.
conversation. That's what made us go look for the ordinance and say, what are our requirements? They were like, well, do we have a Henderson County residency requirement? And so everybody's like, well, we need to go find our 1970 ordinance and figure out exactly what it says. And of course, it did come back.
And then nobody's in line for this position or has inquired maybe or showed any interest in it?
So what
that
we are
had the
doing,
talent?
we have a retirement, and we have a gentleman wanting to be named back for another term. And we've also been considering the idea of adding associate board members, so they would be non-voting, but kind of in the queue to ease the transition. So your first day on the job isn't your first day at a Riverport board meeting. You'll have been there. I think Ben Johnson and Tony Crampy maybe were two or 3 years maybe before they moved from an associate position to a board member. So a lot of this is just happening now. And as we look around and say, well, we want the best and the most experienced, and that's mainly the reason we're requesting it. It kind of was prompted by our individual living now in Davis County, but it also kind of came to light that, we look at this and it made some sense. My history at Ports of Indiana, that's a commission state, so it's a little, much different, but they essentially drew from everywhere in the state so that they could put the people who understood what ports do for business at the table to assist them in decision making. So I don't, that's kind of, my bias is, hey, if there's, again, using just a hypothetical example, if the logistics manager at Barry in Madisonville would be available, that would be an excellent individual to have. Rail and truck, a significant amount of it. It would be somebody that would probably be very beneficial to the port to have on the board. It's a hypothetical example.
Just using that example, is Barry currently a customer of the Riverport?
No,
Okay.
that's why I'm using
So
it.
I wanted to make sure you weren't talking about
Not
putting
to
your
say we're
customers
not
on your
looking-
board.
No.
Okay.
And that's also a concern, obviously. We do have to keep that in mind. Unfortunately, our customers tend to be the people with the knowledge, but, and when we have safeguards to ensure if we're doing business with you that
Okay.
it's a separation, so.
Do you currently have any associate board members?
No.
So you have had them in the past. You said
As
Mr.
I
Crampy and Mr.
understand
Johnson.
it.
So this was just, I guess, a failure to plan, or,
I can't speak to that.
okay.
I know the last two board members, as they became board members, the associate program kind of went dormant.
So there are no, okay, you've got nobody in the queue. So just in general, globally, what is the benefit to the citizens of Henderson County of having the Riverport?
Oh, certainly. So we're a public Riverport, so that means that anyone, any business can do business at the port, meaning we can't, I have an example I use, I have 3 grain companies currently operating at the Riverport. If it were private, it could be a problem. We can't say no. We actually have agreements with one grain company that they can't say no. It's a public
Benefits
belt.
to the people of Henderson County.
Yes, so the Henderson County, so you can be a small business and bring in, whether it be a rail car full of product or with our foreign trade zone, put it in our warehouse and export it for some tax savings, tariff savings. But you don't have to bring in a barge of a product or wait to have a barge of a product to ship out because we have the different modes. So a grain company, 60,000 or 1,600 tons of grain has to be accumulated before it ships. You have to have a rail siding to receive product by rail. You can have it delivered to the ports, transloaded, and shipped to you if you need. If you're bringing grain in, we have a company that wants to bring in chicken bedding, and really no other way for them to do it except through a public river port. So most of the private terminals, some call themselves ports, and some are multi-users. Might be a liquid terminal that has 3 or 4 customers that rent space there, but the public river ports serve anyone and everyone.
But those benefits aren't necessarily specific to Henderson County residents, right?
So, certainly, yes.
Anybody.
Yeah, it's anybody, but
Okay.
specific, yes, no, you're right. It's not restricted to Henderson County residents, but by no means. But there's a great deal of economic benefit. When we're able to bring aluminum in from Canada by rail or by barge, people at Eastern Alloys, Hydro, and other places benefit by cost-effective shipping.
Local people are employed.
And the local people are employed, absolutely. We exist to grow jobs, grow business, grow tax base
In Henderson.
in Henderson and anywhere. So, like I said, we do quite a bit of business in Madisonville. We ship, well, currently we're shipping products like 17 states, but we're coming in as a hub. The dollars are coming into the Riverport. All net revenue at the Riverport is reinvested in the Riverport, so there's no profit margins that a private entity would have, no profit requirements, although we have a reserve requirement that we like to live by. But no, at the end of the day, we're here to provide those 3, and then as a secondary, economic development. We are able to issue industrial revenue bonds and sponsor and partner for federal grants. That's why we exist.
Can I ask real quick, are you aware of any other communities like Paducah or Owensboro or Covington that have allowed outside,
I
board
don't know. We were
representation?
just speaking of Owensboro, and I know there was an individual they were looking to add and ended up not. And I'm not sure if that person was a resident or not. I don't know. And I don't have that. Paducah is Paducah-McCracken County, so they likely have. Owensboro is only Owensboro City, so I wonder. I haven't asked. It's not a. I kind of look at it that if they aren't, then they probably should be. And so what I'm looking to do, perhaps it'll make note and follow.
Well, I'm just thinking if somebody else has already
Done
done this,
it.
I'd like to see what they came up with.
Sure, understood.
Business is good, though. I mean.
Yes, sir.
Business is good.
Yeah, we're back to pre-COVID and above on tonnages and certainly on revenues.
But you could anticipate it being better if you was to get somebody from the outside.
I anticipate that as we look at more complicated projects, as we look to do federal grants, as we look at maybe taking on larger projects, replacing existing skill sets with equally qualified is important.
And you feel confident there's nobody in Henderson County that can do that?
Oh, I'm not saying that there isn't. No, I certainly wouldn't make that statement.
And what would
I
the need
leave
be
that
for going outside?
in the event that we don't, but we have an Evansville metro area of 120, 140,000 people. We have service counties south of us that have very particular industries that might be of benefit to us. I'm not saying the specific ask is for one individual board member, but as I look medium and long term, which is typically what we do, is to say, look, as we go down the road, there's a whole pool of talent that we may want to be tapping into, whether it's restricted to 1 or 2 positions or just available to us. But the board would obviously be making recommendations to Judge Snyder here in the next month.
Let me make a suggestion that, Ben, we table this for right now. And in the meantime, maybe invite a magistrate or 2 to come out to the report, maybe have a little bit more one-on-one conversations with them on this matter, and we can reconvene next fiscal court meeting to see if there's a sentiment one way or the other. I know this is, your first go at hearing Ben's request, so would that be?
I would happily host all of you or any of you at any time. I'll give you my card, and we'd love to show you around, show you what we do.
I'm going to go back to, I serve, voted in by the will of the people, right? And I feel like I got to give back to this community, and it makes me feel good to be able to participate. So I look at it more as these boards, people are actually wanting to get involved and make this community better. Local people, if I'm making sense. You know, they want to do it. They feel like they can bring something to the table. And we obviously have done well over the years with local people. Understand, times change, you know, but we change too. You know, why can't we change? Why isn't that expertise available right here? It has been in the past.
I think
But whatever you say, Judge, if you want to table it for,
if I may, just the one outside, odd requirement that the ordinance calls out is knowledge or experience in river transportation or riverport facilities. As I said, we have a board member, 25 years, that worked at Alcoa, so very knowledgeable about river transportation, river logistics. We have an economics professor who has deep knowledge of the industries that are affected by the riverport. We have, obviously, manufacturing, banker, and a contractor currently, basically makes, and a very large farmer as our chairman. So they have knowledge of those industries. And all I'm asking is, hey, as we look down the road, I appreciate everybody's desire to serve, but this is just a tad bit more complicated than some other boards might be. And I'm not diminishing the value or the knowledge, subject matter knowledge you'd have to serve, say, on a mental health board or substance abuse board. I wouldn't qualify. I would not put my name in the hat, but the pool for our board is dramatically smaller than I would suspect most of the other ones.
But it kind of seems like the Riverport is forcing the fiscal court into this by failing to have those associate members and to identify them for the last several years.
The associate members were never
that
specific.
failure to have that pipeline,
Certainly.
knowing you've got such a small pool and that you need some expertise, letting it get to the point where you don't have those associates and then immediately hitting the brake glass in case of emergency and coming in and asking the fiscal court to set this type of precedent, seems like that was not the best go-to.
And I appreciate that. We're not saying we're breaking the glass because of an emergency. It's just a request because we have a very talented board member who, through no fault of his own, was relocated to Owensboro. And if at all possible, we're working on a small list of names that are all Henderson County for this go-round. But as I said, this kind of evolved as a one-off, and then looking at, well, we're also looking to expand. We started this conversation back in probably December to expand and add some associate members. And it's not a huge pool, so we're having to find the list, find the people who might be qualified, find the people on that list who might be interested. And so, no, I wouldn't. If you wanted to table this for 2 years, that's fine. I'm just putting it out there. This is where we'd like to go. If we need to replace the current board member, I'm very comfortable and confident the existing board will have names for Judge Schneider to consider. So I wouldn't suggest this is an emergency situation. I hope it didn't come across that way, because it's not.
I agree with Steve.
Well, we'll table this for now. We won't take any action for now. If you want to reach out to any of the magistrates to have further meetings, feel free.
Certainly. And like I said, I'd love to have you all out, or any of you out at any time. I can give you my business card if that would be easiest to facilitate, or I can find your contact information through Judge Schneider's office, however.
I can distribute your cell phone number.
Okay. That would be fine. No, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. And thank you for everything the Riverport's doing, and we appreciate your leadership.
Judge, do we need to make that a motion to table it?
There was nothing official.
Yeah. Next, Eric Higgs from our recycling department. Eric?
Morning, everyone.
Morning, Eric.
The Household Hazardous Waste Day grant is a grant we receive from the state every year to help citizens of both city and county dispose of their hazardous waste. This year, I believe we are going to receive $25,000. I think 1,400 or 1,500 of that is for advertising, which is banners we put up to kind of advertise. This grant's a little different than the Kentucky Pride Grant, because the Kentucky Pride Grant, we're actually requesting a specific amount of money for equipment and stuff like that. The way this one works is we get a quote from EEI, Environmental Enterprises Incorporated, which they're the company that handles the hazardous waste. They base it off of what last year's car total was from last year's hazardous waste day. Last year, we did wind up having to send back, I think, 7,000 or 8,000 back to the state. There's no way to really know if we're going to use all this money until the day of the event and how many cars come through. But I do know we have been approved, and we usually get this every year, so.
Yeah, well, we don't like giving them money back.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
And so good job securing the grant. And we do need a vote to allow me to execute the
So
grant
moved.
document.
Second.
Yeah. We have a motion and a second. Any other questions?
When is our next household waste day coming up?
Once I get there, I've got it scheduled already for November the 9th. It has not been advertised yet until we actually receive the
Get this-
funds from the state first. Then the advertisements will start going out, start letting you know to the citizens.
We have one a year, and it's typically in the fall.
Right.
Yeah. Any other questions? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Eric, while I got you, the Tri-County Recycling Alliance, as you know, okayed dismantling the picker machine, for want of a better term for it. Give me an update on how that dismantling is going and scrapping it, of course.
It's already been unhooked from the electric. It's ready to take down and dispose of, or
Okay.
take to the scrapyard.
Keep us posted on that. Thank you. And Nick Stallings, you have a new hire?
Morning, Court.
Morning.
We got a new hire that we picked up for the road department. His name's Lawrence Darnell. He'll be starting in as in at the truck driver pay, which is a starting pay of $19.50. After his probation, then he'll move up to the new pay grade for the truck driving line item that they typically do after probation. So we're, the last couple of weeks, we've kind of filled our summer employment, our part-time employment, and then we've had a few people leave, for greener pastures, and we're trying to jockey position to get everybody kind of moving along. We got a couple of retirements people are starting to whisper about, so we're trying to get everybody up so we can move and make sure everything's covered. Some of those higher end positions, and kind of moving people up, which means we got to fill all the positions. So that's what we're trying to do, trying to get people experienced and keeping the road department running.
Any questions of Nick on the new hire? Get a motion to approve that?
So moved.
Second.
You have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Anything else going on?
Everything.
Everything. I agree. Belinda Whitlock from Animal Control.
Good morning, Court.
Good morning.
Hope everything is well. As always, I just want to go over the basic animal control numbers. Did anyone get the graphic that I sent? Did you give that to anyone? You did? Excellent.
Yes, ma'am, we have.
I included the graphic this time as it shows all of our animal controls calls on it. The data matrix just reflects the animals that return to the shelter. So that's the ones that we process and intake and take their information. The animal control graphic shows all of the calls abroad, what they were, if they were not an intake, if they were at large, if it was large that was not found. The data matrix shows animals that are brought back to the shelter. So I wanted to include that. That way you have a full view of what the animal control is actually doing versus where they're bringing back to the shelter. That way it covers all grounds. And as you can see, we had 26 animals brought back, and 19 of those returned to owner. The Humane Society obviously absorbs the ones that are not and tries to find them new homes. We go, and if you go through, you can see the animals at large is a larger number than what we have on the intake. That is because we have 57 at large, and they may have been returned to their owner at that time. They may have caught them in their neighbor's yard and been returned to their owner at that moment, and they didn't come back to the shelter, therefore they did not have an intake. They will still have an incident done on them. They'll still have a full report done on them, including the owner and the animal, but that doesn't mean that we brought them back and processed them. It also breaks down any other kind of calls. You can see our welfare checks are pretty up there, which obviously a welfare check is not brought back to the shelter unless it is seized. So I wanted to make sure you know the difference, that there are more calls than what I had been initially reporting, because I didn't realize there was that huge of a gap between the graphic and what the actual intake was. So just to show you the little bit of difference, and I can print this out and send it for prior months if you'd like to see the difference in what the data matrix says and what the chart actually says. Because the chart is based on animal control reports, and the intake is based on the animals that we bring back. Just so you have that, so you're aware of that. And since you have the numbers, I won't bore you going over all the numbers. We are trying to do our best to try to keep the at-larges down. I see a trend of it going down, which is nice. Obviously, all at-larges, they have 10 days to bring us proof of rabies and purchase city county tags. If it's a at-large repeated call, we usually give the first warning. That is the first warning. And then after that, they would be cited because they're repeatedly letting them run at large. We have had cases where we just have escape artists, where we have the same animal that gets out persistently. Instead of citing them repeatedly, we have tried to go to the home and give them pointers. The animal control officers are very good at that. They can say, well, this part of your fence needs to be patched. This is where your animals are scraping at. And give them pointers and other options, because at the end of the day, we're not trying to take anyone's animal. We want to keep them safe. And keep them from being a nuisance to others, of course. I also included a email. It's just an example. It is something that we get a lot, asking about the TNR. We do not have the funding for that. We do it as necessary. If we have one that is just dumped, we will do it as necessary. This one is asking if we are taking any kittens, which we take a lot of kittens in, especially if they are dumped, because that is an animal in danger. We are obligated to protect any animal in danger. The TNR is something that is a city, and this one actually is from the county. That's why I actually presented it, because usually it is a city-only issue.
What is TNR?
It is trap, neuter, release.
Okay.
Or neuter spay. Generally, whenever we do TNR, I usually go through the animal hospital at Clutie Park. I will call them up and say, hey, I have a feral animal. I need it to, TNR, and they will clip the ear. This will make it visible for anyone to see the clipped ear after we release the animal back out. That way, you can see that animal's ear is clipped, that animal has been spayed or neutered. It is a big thing, actually. They do in other states, other counties, and it's just to reduce the cat population, because cats are perfectly fine in being able to live on their own, but they tend to reproduce quite frequently. So yeah, I wanted to bring the TNR attention. Usually this is something that I tell the city about, because that is where the major issue is. This is one of the first times I've gotten a county TNR request, so I wanted to share that with you. So apparently the issue is spreading. Now, when we have a injured cat, we do pick them up because we do take care of injured animals. That is when we do the TNR, because that cat cannot be tamed, and we do not really have the resources to go into that kind of business. So we do the TNR, and we make sure the cat is healthy, cat is safe, they get TNR and a rabies shot, and they either get released where they were from, or we release them to our, we do have a cat hut outside, but we always make sure they have the rabies shots. Right now, I have a lady in the city limits that has 2 litters that she wants us to take because she needs TNR. So we're trying to work that out. So if anyone has any grant money available for TNR, so we could do a few across the city, across the county, that would be fabulous. You know where I can find that at. I did the math. We can do about 13 cats, that is both spay and neuter, for about $1,000. That includes their spay and neuter and the rabies shot. So it wouldn't be terribly expensive. It's just something we're going to have to look into in the future. Okay? And I did go to the city commissioners meeting, first time I've ever actually been to one. And I have agreed to attend them quarterly. Of course, I come to see you guys once a month. I asked for a load of gravel and tree removal for which our property is city. And they had advised me to get quotes for that. I do not know if you guys had planned to share the cost of that, but if you do, I will definitely send you copies of that whenever I get that information. Right now we are measuring so we can see how much gravel it would take. Basically the gravel would be for the backyard area. We have had it previously gravel, but it has been quite some time, and is mainly because of a drainage issue, because we're right at the top of that peak. So the gravel will help us raise the ground level so it can drain off properly. And the tree issue are some very, very large birch and hackberry trees on the back side of the property. We're just afraid they're going to fall in on us. The birch tree is quite tall. So even if we could just get them to where they would fall the opposite direction, that would be fantastic. And I will let you know about that project. I'll let you know if we have any estimates and if you would be interested in participating in that. I'd like to open up to any questions.
Linda, where's your finances at? I mean, where are you sitting for us financially now?
For animal control?
Yeah.
We have still not received the back money from the city that was owed before I began. I don't expect we will receive that. And that has put us essentially to where we're breaking even now.
You're even.
Yeah, we're just animal control. We're just starting to break even, so I'm hoping that will build up. We're on call now. There's 3, 4, including us. So hopefully we will get back to where we need to be. I do know that fiscal court and city had approved a better budget for next year, so that should work out fantastic.
Yeah, I think if I was you, I'd write those 3 payments off from the city this late in the game.
Actually, they're going to use those to, use that money to pay for an audit that the.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that had been approved.
Well, I think they have to get it approved, but this
Okay.
was the plan that I understood.
That would be fantastic.
As well as the larger dog box for the new truck.
They're also-
Yeah, so
That would be awesome. Yeah,
Oh, good.
thank you.
that was the last I understood. I'm sure they'll be voting on it
Yeah.
tonight or the next meeting.
All right. Very good. Thank you, Melinda.
But to Butch's point, your P&L statement says that you're $10,000, $10,936 in the black so far. Is that right?
I actually don't do the financials. I prepare them, but I do not. We have a bookkeeper and a treasurer now that takes care of all of it. I do know they said that we last month we actually broke even for the first time in quite some time. So I was very excited about that. So if it's more than that, I am unaware of it yet.
Yeah, the P&L statement says $10,936 to the good. Maybe with the last month here, in the fiscal year, if you have that much hanging out in the bank account, may be good to put that towards the gravel and the trees. I might consider that. But you can send us an estimate, and maybe we'll work with the city about what needs to happen, so.
Okay.
I was just going to, Judge, I was going to ask about, I noticed there was I think a one ad on social media recently about another animal control officer. How's our staffing right now? Are we able to retain those that we're training and
We have two that were solid. We have one that had to leave, was an unexpected circumstance of an ill family member. And that one was replaced fairly quickly. We had another one we gave a 2-week to 1-month trial on. He did not work out. He was not ready. And then actually hired a replacement, which we had previously interviewed 2 days later. And she has worked out fantastically. She was a volunteer sheriff or a volunteer firefighter. So she has picked this up quite easily.
Okay, good.
Before you leave, I will say, people in the county need to remember that feral cats are wild animals. We are not typically in the business of addressing wild animals. And I know that in the case of the lady who sent you that email, it's very hard to resist feeding feral cats. But you are exacerbating an issue, I think, when you do that. And just people need to understand those are wild animals and they need to be treated as such. So,
Yes,
any other questions for Melinda?
I just wanted to share the email. That way you see what we're getting, the kind of, requests we're getting.
Yeah.
That way you see, okay, this is what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
All right?
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I believe you had some detention center reports in your packets, but Jailer Todd, if you want to come up here, add some comments.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning, Jailer Todd.
I just want to update you on a couple of items, probably in your packets. We've had a discussion with DOC and with Tim Skinner on expansion. We've looked at a couple of designs that we've come up with, and the next step would be to have Branson to come in and look at the site where we're planning on putting the expansion, to look at elevations and water flow and make sure we're good there. So that'll be next, and then we'll get our jail magistrates together and we'll start again looking at designs and having weekly meetings and see where we go from there.
And the possible need for expansion is due to?
Increase, we get a report when we have our jail altar. They say we're overcrowded. Then we're looking at increasing our SAP program, which we have an agreement with DOC that I think we're going to do next court meeting, give y'all and Steve Go a chance to look at that. They've agreed to, we'll increase some SAP. As we increase our programs, we'll be increasing our SAP folks also. Medical department is, they're overflowing. I mean, it's too small an area for them. They're beginning. But and hopefully feds increase. Right. So we look at, we got our jail conference is coming up, and I'll be talking more with DOC and other folks. And then, of course, our population, as of the 17th, we had 485, had 179 feds, 122 state and county. We had 38. As of today, though, we're at 495. We have increased one feds, but we've our county has increased 138 to 148. But SAP's gone up a little, so we're good. Still,
Staffing's okay, hanging in there?
Staffing's good. We, of course, got one that it wasn't for him, so he come in and said, this job just not for me. And it's not for everybody. It's tough. It's different. And
just interested, the inmate that escaped a couple months back.
Right.
Has he been apprehended?
Well, no. I've been talking with U.S. Marshals, and they act like they are keying in on him, but He hasn't. I think last he's in Ohio.
Yeah, he's from Ohio, right?
But
Any
they
other
say-
questions of Jailer Todd?
On behalf of everybody that attended the Memorial Day program, thanks
Yeah.
to you for being able to get a work crew out there. The storm that came through knocked over a whole lot of those crosses and everything, and you had a crew out there and really straightened things up. So thank you for that. And I made sure to stop and tell the crew that was there, thank you as well. That was nice, and that really made
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah,
that event.
I got an email from Judge, a text from Judge, and
After I got a text from Steve Gold.
yeah, and when I called, I texted Colonel Hendricks and Captain Duncan, and they responded, and so I came by later on. They were already finished and gone, and of course the females were there setting up chairs. So we're glad we can help. And we'll help any time we can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Todd.
You have in your packet the annual sheriff's tax settlements. This is everything we turn into the state at the end of the year with the sheriff's office. Sheriff Stauffer, you want to add anything to that?
No, these are preliminary until the audit comes, and the audit won't be done until the fall.
Any other questions on that? I do need a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions of Sheriff Stauffer? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. County Clerk Bernice Abner, your report.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Ms. Release.
Today, I have the report for April 2024 with an excess fee amount of $128,774.22 and a total amount remitted to the county at $184,471.54. This is approximately $43,000 more than the month of April in 2023. So we're doing well. Most of that increase was in the vehicle receipts. So we're doing pretty good.
Any other questions of Bernice?
Yeah, Bernice, I heard this the other day and I didn't know it to be fact. Is there, if I buy an electric car, do I pay something on the front end when I license that?
You do, but there's a yearly fee that you are now being.
Just a flat fee?
That you are paying along with your registration. So, and I don't have the figure, but.
Oh, I
yeah.
was reading something in the
Yeah.
state, and I said, I wasn't aware of it, so.
Right.
I'm not going to buy an electric car.
Right.
It's different for a hybrid, isn't it?
Yeah, it's different for a hybrid, it's a different price. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
If I could just ask, it sounded like everything went
Yes.
according to plan and very smoothly on Election Day. Thanks to Steve and the Election Board and all those that work the election. But I was actually up here for the returns, and that went very smoothly.
Yes.
It seemed like. Just wish a few more people would have taken the time.
Participated, yes.
Yeah,
I do want to
participate.
thank Nick. He allows his staff to help, place all of the election equipment the day before and also the day after, and Eric helped as well. So they're very important keys to this process, and we have a great county team that we all work together so well. So I just want to say a special thank you to them, and also Brent. He helped move equipment this time as well, and helped us on Election Day with, like he always does with our equipment. And so just wanted to give a shout out to them.
Yeah. And that raise was appreciated because
Yes.
I had
Did you have some
several of them
comments?
say thank you. Yeah, they said thank you.
Any other questions? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No, we never did.
Motion to accept
I thought we did.
County Clerk's
So moved.
Second.
motion and a second. All those in
We
favor say
kind of got
aye.
off there, didn't we?
All
Thank
those in
you.
favor say aye.
Say aye.
Thank you
Thanks.
very much. Sorry.
That electric car thing.
Mr. Gold, your report.
Judge, I've got several checks today. Jail fees collected, $439.24. Health insurance reimbursement, $9,846 and $920. Dental and life, $522.05 and $40.09. Aflac, $161.81 or 84 cents. Interest, $121.07. Flow through from the city, $458.33, and another $458.33, bringing today's total to $12,966.95, and the total turned over for the year to $188,821.39.
Get a motion to approve the county attorney's payments?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions?
And just an update on, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Just an update after Magistrate Starks asked about our roof during a storm at the last fiscal court meeting, went downstairs to find it leaking. So we jinxed it by talking about it, but that is something that I know James is on top of.
We are investigating that. It may or may not be related to the new roof. It may. We're investigating that. Frustratingly so, but we're investigating that. All right, I'm going to call Treasurer Brenda Ryder up. We have several financial items to take care of. It's that time of year. And before we have first reading of this New Year's budget, I want to say thank you again for all the hard work. I think it's a solid budget. I think it sets us up for success. Thank you to the department heads and elected officials for helping us get through that process relatively smoothly. A lot of good debate, a lot of good discussion. And also, I think the first iteration of the vetting committee for our nonprofit support went pretty smoothly, from what I can tell.
I agree. I don't think we had anybody. I know, Melissa, I feel like we did really good with what we had and put forth a good product, and we'll move onward and upward.
And remember, the bottom line of that is we're helping organizations in the community that perform services that help our citizens, and that government isn't necessarily, county government isn't necessarily set up to do. So that's really the point of all that.
Agreed.
Right? So
Yes,
making
sir.
sure they have the resources to provide our people those services. So with that, I'll turn it over to Treasurer Ryder.
This is the first reading of the budget for the fiscal year 24-25. The budget is being presented as balanced in total, as well as with respect to the revenues and appropriations of each fund. The total budget for fiscal year 24-25 is $36,562,002. The breakdown of each fund is general fund $11,330,057, road fund $5,865,157, jail fund $9,407,305, LGEA, which is the Local Government Economic Assistance Fund, $1,681,863. State Grants Fund, $736,620. Economic Development Fund, $60,000. Clerk SB 135, which is the Clerk Permanent Storage Fund, $21,000. Employee Health Insurance, $3,125,000. Opioid Settlement Fund, $185,000. ARPA, which is the American Rescue Plan Act, $4,150,000. Again, the total budget for the fiscal year 24 and 25 is $36,562,002. Also, with this budget, included on the last page of the packet that you received, is the approval for the annual standing order, which is done annually to approve certain reoccurring expenses such as utilities, payroll and payroll-related benefits, phone invoices, postage, grants, and employee health insurance premium claims, which are paid weekly.
Any questions of Brenda on the new budget? Okay, we'll do that second. So I need a motion to approve the new budget.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I will vote yea for the record. We also need a vote to approve the standing orders for next year. That's the normal payroll, utility bills that we incur every month, and just giving Brenda the go-ahead to go ahead and pay those are the standing orders.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Anybody have a question about that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And thank you, Brenda, for your hard work on the budget. Next, as I mentioned before, we have a budget amendment amending in opioid funds that will enable us to spend them easily if, towards the end of June, if we so choose. So, Brenda, take it away.
This is the first reading of Budget Amendment Number 5 for the current fiscal year, amending into the current fiscal year budget unbudgeted receipts into the opioid settlement fund of $150,000 for the opioid settlements payment revenue line. The corresponding appropriation line is the opioid settlement fund. For this is the opioid funds distribution. Again, the total budget amendment is $150,000.
Get a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions?
I do have one. There's not a sunset clause on that money. Do you have to spend it within a certain time or lose it?
I have not heard that when it comes to the opioid settlement funding.
That's my understanding as well.
Because we're
At this
kind of
time,
still in the
there's not
dark
a
on it. you know,
sunset.
so-
A lot
That's
of
mine
questions
also.
still remaining with this.
I think the state's kind of still feeling their way around on what counts and what doesn't count. They had a turnover in that, they have an opioid commission through the AG's office, and they had a turnover in when they changed AG administrations. And so I think they're still coming up with guidelines theoretically,
Yeah.
hopefully.
So we have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And I will vote yea for the record. We have several fund transfers as we get into the final weeks, making sure that all the line items are in good shape. And
The transfers are as presented, and this is redistributing appropriations within the existing budget and this fiscal year. Also, as the judge explained, these are necessary to balance out the accounts as we get towards the end of the fiscal year. Included with these transfers is also a cash transfer from the general fund to the road fund of $800,000, and this is a budgeted transfer.
And I will say that even with moving the $800,000, which is typical this time of year for the road department, usually middle of the winter, springtime is when the transfers are made. Even with this, Nick Stallings has done a great job with his team of staying under budget and doing things efficiently. So thank you, Nick. Get a motion to approve transfers.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions of Brenda on transfers? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
You have received the bank balances after paying claims today. Your day-to-day appropriations should be at approximately 91%. I do have additional claims. From the jail fund to Coroner Bruce Farmer, $4,819. This is for fiscal year '24 training incentive and is to come from the Coroner's Training Incentive Appropriation line. This is to be paid with the 6/6/2024 payroll. Also from the road fund to Nick Stallings, $2,937.25. This is for conference training reimbursement and is to come from the county engineer training travel appropriation line.
I move to pay the claims.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I will point out, as Brenda said, our spending percentage at this point should be at 91. Right now, the general fund is at 84%. Road fund is at 73%. Jail fund is at 82%. So excellent job, everybody.
Yeah.
Spend the money wisely. Thank you, Brenda.
Thank you.
Okay, if anybody in the audience would like to say something for good of the county.
All right, two things forgot to say earlier. I guess y'all know we had some storms south of us in Hopkins County again, kind of missed Dawson Springs, a little north of it. And we try to partner up with the transportation cabinet as we go with different things, right? I haven't got any verbal request yet, but if so does arise, if we can put a day or two down there, maybe help them get some trees out of the way and kind of open up areas. Are you all okay with us sending a small crew down that way and doing a little bit of work, you know, put a good day in down there to do what we can to open that area up.
I don't have any problem with that at all. We're always
Yeah.
ready to help. I would
Right thing
say-
to do.
I would say keep very close track of your hours.
Absolutely, yeah.
All that for potential reimbursement if they.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, we have the forestry here. I know we kind of tried to put a boat to it last time as far as the work with the Green River Road area, but he's here, so he wants to try to take some information back to his people in Frankfurt as far as pushing that along. So if you got anything to say.
Good morning.
Good morning.
sir.
Not a lot to add to that, but basically, I talked to our properties division, and they would just like to get some information, some type of proposal, saying this is what we're planning on doing, with some specifics on the size of the road and that sort of thing. I think they're going to be agreeable to either a transfer, just a straight transfer to you, or to the land swap that we had talked about. I think after we take a look at the survey, make a decision on that probably.
Okay. And I'm sure Nick can have the specs on exactly what we're doing and cost estimate. Is there anything he needs that you can't prepare? Do we need to provide you, Nick?
No, I've got everything prepared for this. He just wanted to make sure he was present for, you know, the verbal from you all so he can get back to his people. So next thing I'll do is get a hold of a couple surveys in the area and then try to get us on a schedule for them. You know, once we get the survey done and they give the okay, we should be able to get out of the rainy season and get this road built. So.
Yep. You know what we know. We're going forward.
Right. The sooner we can get, I guess, something in writing for them to start looking at, it'll probably speed things up, as this will have to go to the governor's office before it's said and done.
If either of you need a formal letter from me saying that fiscal court has approved this, and on behalf of fiscal court, we intend to go forward, and anything we can provide the cabinet or your leadership, we will. So just let me know.
Okay.
If you want me to do that.
If you wouldn't mind to do that, that would probably help.
I will do it
Yeah,
and get
with
it
the
to you
proposal.
today.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Anybody else for good of the county? Just introduce yourself, please.
My name's Mark Kaplan, and I live on Tree Turner Road out in Timmy's district, Mr. Southard's, Magistrate Southard's district. I'm here on a couple of issues, and it's, I know, and I would like to say, this gentleman right here is 80 years old. He still drives semi for a living and works rather hard, and I sit on a hill. I'm high and dry. But we have a large number of families that every time it rains, I mean, it's a flood mitigation issue. And I want to apologize to Nick, because I just met him, and I want to thank you for your thoughts of taking people down to, I was down there yesterday working, and I'm sorry for not having a better presentation, because I really didn't. I didn't get into almost 10, and I wasn't able to put it together because I wanted to bring something that you could see. I don't have a flooding problem at my house. The water runoff starts with an issue of Pond Creek. And I noticed, and I had done some inquiry, and I just met you, Judge, and I am someone that's overbearing and forceful. I've known Steve Gold and his father when he came out of college. I worked with Keith Berry in law enforcement. I've known Bill Stevens since, well, a long time. Mr. Putman, I don't know you, but I know your reputation, and I thank you for your opinions of the conservancy that you project.
Thank you.
Just so happen to be kin to this one by marriage. That's not my fault. I'm going to talk about Pond Creek first. Is there anybody in here that realizes or thinks that we can run water uphill? I've got pictures, and the driest place in our county, in my district, just below me there is around our airport. It has the deepest and cleanest and best ditch to get water away from the airport onto other landowners and to Pond Creek. I don't know the process because I haven't done open records. I'm asking that the court allow me to review the FFA monies that was received, which I was told by the prior county engineer that they got a $50,000 grant to dig a ditch around the Henderson County Airport a few years back before all this extension happened. With that said, they dug such ditch without a transit, which means that the water didn't go the direction that they had desired it to go. After they dug the ditch and took the culverts out, and I talked with the previous county engineer, and he said it had to do with the terrorist keeping your airport safe program or something of that nature. And I was told by him, now this is hearsay because I know I don't have documents or anything. But if that is the case, merely little over 3 weeks, they came back in there and put culverts in. Of course, the water problem, and I want you to know that in the courtroom is my father-in-law. And in 1991, him and his brother decided to buy ground in Henderson County at an auction. And they bought a lot of the AEP ground right there on Old US 60. And if you go by my father-in-law's property, anywhere he has property, it's well maintained, it runs water, and I know that could be a problem for others, but when he had the farm next to the airport, they came and wanted to do something so they could do their extension. Instead of fighting them tooth and nail, they did something to work together. I know they paid this amount and they worked together. And then Mr. Davis is sitting there, and him and his brother Pat offered to bring their own equipment to Pond Creek and to clean all the way up from the airport all the way down there behind Mr. Beck's. If you're not familiar with that, that would be the crossing at the large oil tanks just outside of 136. And of course that didn't happen. And he offered to do that at his cost. He didn't ask to be reimbursed.
And to clarify, he offered that to the state, which controlled Pond Creek at the
Well,
time. Fish and Wildlife.
you'll have to excuse me. Who was the person that they spoke to? I don't remember the name. About Pond Creek. Actually, he died. The guy from Madisonville, he came up and met with this gentleman right here.
Department of Water.
Yeah,
State Department of
well,
Water.
road and water guys came up, and he actually promised him to put a large culvert in there to get that water down there at the Geneva Baptist Church. They promised this guy, because he stays underwater. I'm going to go by his house and take a hydrometer, and I'm going to run a water reading on every one of those right at their sub and baseboards that they're inside their house. Guys, I know, oh, thank you. Can I bring this to you, or is that wrong? I've never been done one of these.
What is it?
It's a picture of his house.
Okay.
Yeah, next door. And you know, guys,
Okay. There you go. Everybody familiar with typical flooding problems?
I've seen it, yes, sir.
Okay, there you go.
well, I hate to tell you, and I want to correct you on your statement, it's not typical. It's not typical to these people. Because 1993, Charles Alexander, a prior magistrate, and Judge Sandy Lee Watkins came out there and made a statement to me. He said, we're going to do something about that. And then after about 3 months, I ran into Sandy Lee, which we worked when he was a special deputy. I don't know if that's what it was called then, Keith, but Mr. Berry, I'm sorry. And he said, I can't get it done. I'm going to tell you something. Sandy Lee, to me, was one of the best guys that I've ever been around. Now, like me, Keith knows, Taylor knows, people that know me, Bill knows, those guys would go to bat for you. And he'd also tell you, I don't have enough power to do this, or get this done. I admired that about Sandy Lee. I'm hoping that continues that way. What we need is, I want you, and I'm going to invite the whole fiscal court, and I even asked, I talked to Magistrate Southern. He had to go to the doctor today to get his shoulder looked at. And I've talked with Taylor. He was out by the house the other day. This issue has gone on long enough. As you can see, the typical flooding problem that this man and all the Sires boys, nice, super, wonderful, and a big Catholic family that we tease over in Protestant. And I stopped at their house and talking with the judge just a few minutes ago. When you walk into a room of a 72-year-old and a 68-year-old, and I don't know how old the other guy was. I can't think of how old. He's probably my age, about 60. And when you say, guys, would you come with me to fiscal court to back this up? Well, I made the mistake of telling them the meeting was tonight at 7. So I was busy yesterday, so I didn't get time to go back and make those visits. But what has got to happen, and I've been calling outside of Henderson County to people that I worked for, and I've asked for their assistance, and just to bring something to the attention of their needs. It's not going to benefit me for a nickel. It's nothing. Guys, I'm a person that believes in a cause, and I'm going to stand for it. When I worked with Keith in the Sheriff's Department, I knew when he was with me, I was safe. And I hope he knew he was safe when I was there. I know the first person had 23 minutes, Judge. I kept time on all of it. Judge, I'm smarter than that. I may be just a dumb country redneck.
The first person did go to the county?
Huh?
The first person who did go to the county?
Actually, I got it right here. It was 23 minutes. I just kept time with everybody that spoke.
I don't think that's right, but 2 minutes, please.
I'll tell you what, I will leave you with this because I want him to win this, but he's not going to win the war. Judge, I promise you this. I will do what I have to do to bring this to attention. I ask you, let's don't go there, back in your office just a few minutes ago. But these people deserve representation. He could afford to sue you. But you know, that's not the kind of person he is. We've been water backed up on our farms, or not my farms, his farms and his brother's farms. We've had dirt taken off our property to go to Sandy Lee Watkins Park, his property. I told Mr. Stallings about it. He doesn't believe me, but I actually followed a truck out there, and it was a small dump truck. I think you said 8 tons, Mr. Stallings. And I'm not lying about that. I have no reason to lie about that. I'm just asking you not to, when you go in the hallway, be mindful that this gentleman overheard somebody talking between mattresses. Well, everybody's got a water problem. I just ask you to think about, if you say that, it really gives him no hope. He's 80, and you know, we have the largest creek that runs, probably, I haven't measured it, but I will, 2/10 maybe of a mile, that surely we could work out something, because you see, if you can take farm ground to extend a runway, and I hate to even hear the thought of taking something from a private citizen, but I'll guarantee you there's a way. I'm not an engineer, and I'm gonna tell you something, Mr. Stallings, I didn't mean to offend. I promise, that's just my overbearing personality. But there has got to be a way. I'm not asking for government money. I'm just asking you to, if you put the word county, represent us. The only library in the county sits in the middle of the city. If I came to you and said, well, Corden sure would like to have a library like that, what would happen? Keith, Taylor, Mr. Putman, I don't want to spend, I'm a conservative as you can get. I don't even want to spend my money. I just ask you, I know some people, y'all know some people, let's try to get our people together and do something. I am the dog collector in my neighborhood. I love the people at the Animal Control Services. But I've raised 13 drop dogs, and I currently have 4 cats roaming my property. I have no idea. I'm just asking you to consider the issues of Pond Creek. We can't run, we can clear that creek as much as you want to, but when we get to the fish and wildlife area out there, I know there's people that love frogs and copper belly water snakes and mosquitoes, but he can sit in his front yard and die of malaria. I invite you, and I'm going to close with this. I know this is, you and I talked way longer than this back there, so you know where I am. And you and I just submit to you to consider. I've been waiting 30 years, and it's not going to help me. I was promised by my magistrate, and he got mad at me because I put Timmy Southard's sign in my yard because he lied to me for whatever reason. Money, not enough people complaining, not a big enough tax base. All I want you to think about is what's right. And I think a lot of this could be solved if the state road issues, we've got a 30-inch culvert out there. And I said, and they'll tell you, 4 people, 1 shovel, 15 minutes standing at a culvert. A guy standing over top of it trying to get debris cleared away, got in their truck and left and never came back. Then you saw that picture. I don't know the answer, but just like going down and being proud of Kentuckians, going down there and helping them people need help. Tornadoes not killing them. It's water. And we all have that problem, and I know, but I guarantee you, be honest with yourself and ask one question. Bill, Keith, Steve, Mr. Snyder, Kurt, Mr. Putman, and Taylor, if I had that much water under my house, what would I do? I know, and I'm just, that's the only thing I'm asking. Okay. And please, I am for it. I am a person that believes that I can do more with these in 15 minutes than we can sit around in a circle and talk about it. And there's thousands of people down there in Dawson Springs today that believe the same thing. And Mr. Stallings just asked the court, which is greatly appreciated, to go down there and send them help, because that's what we are. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, and I want to clarify a couple things. Number one,
Judge,
Mr. App.
I just want to clarify, and Mark, I love you, but when you brought up the word lawsuit, I just have to advise the fiscal court that,
I
commenting-
understand.
whether you're
And I
going to
think they're
comment
intelligent
publicly
enough.
on a lawsuit is something you need to consider before you speak.
I'm going to consider. You can have a seat. Thank you.
But
Thank you.
it's just once that word is said,
Yeah, I
then any-
understand.
when it's
because
pending or
Mr.
potential
Southern,
litigation, it's.
told the same thing, but you also need to understand that, if some of that happened to your property, what would you do?
We understand. We understand. We need to move along.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah. Well, I want to make a couple statements. Number one, that this is not a us versus you thing. This is not a battle and a war. We are all here to try to do whatever we can to help the citizens of the county. I guarantee you that. I know that of every person on this dais. As you said, you don't know the solution to the problem. We've been working on some solutions to some problems involving flooding all over the county, and we understand the challenge here. The county has certain spots that have always been a challenge for 100 years. Geneva is one of them. I will say, sir, I completely understand your trepidation. I know this can be something that's very frustrating. Everybody in Geneva, you do have good representation in Tim Southard. He has talked about this many times with me, many times, and he lives and farms in your community. And I'm sorry. I want you to know you have representation. There are people thinking about this. Number three, I think the airport construction Mr. Applin referred to with the ditch, that happened many years ago. Since then, the airport work, and I talked about this with Tim right after I talked to Mr. Applin, about how the airport work has improved the situation in Geneva to some degree. Tim verifies that, having lived it most of his adult life. Those of you on the court who were not there at the time, but part of the airport project was improving drainage and taking more drainage water to Pond Creek, and Tim tells me that Geneva drains faster than it ever has in his lifetime. Now, that doesn't help for the moments when the water's on your property, I get it. But I am more than willing, and I know Tim is more than willing, to sit down with whoever, whatever Geneva residents want to try to work through some sort of solution. Now, the solutions may not be what we think. It may involve state and federal agencies that may or may not care. And all we can do is the best we can do. But I guarantee you we're not just trifling with this. And again, I hate to say it because apparently it's not popular, but we deal with flooding all over the county. And I guarantee you there are some people as adamant about their property and what happens when we have a heavy, heavy rain like we did last week, as you all do. And we care about all those people. So this is not an adversarial situation. We want to try to help in any way we can. The solutions are not easy. Without even examining them even more closely, I can tell you that they will be complicated and difficult. So, but I promise to you that we are open to helping. So stay tuned on that. I'm going to work hard with Mr. Southard, Magistrate Southard, to learn more if we can. I know that Pond Creek has been an issue for decades, and it continues to be an issue partly because of Fish and Wildlife and their attitude towards things like beaver dams that cause flooding. And we've been round and round many times with that. So, and Mr. Magistrate Southard serves on the Pond Creek Watershed Committee, who deals with that all the time. So we hear you. Trust me, we hear you. And this is not an us versus you situation. This is not winning a war. This is working together to try to come up with a solution. I promise you. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I would like for you to understand when I say the war is against the problem, not against you.
Okay, understood. With that, we've been at it a while. Anybody else for good of the county? I would ask that maybe we save our good of the county comments and go into executive session now because time is pressing. So we can make a motion, if I can accept a motion to go into executive session per KRS 61.8101G, discussions between a public agency and representative business entity and discussions concerning a specific proposal, and if open discussion would jeopardize the siding, retention, expansion, or upgrading of the business. Can I get a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I do not anticipate a vote coming out of this particular executive session. So just so you know, I anticipate voting on the substance of the executive session within the next 2 meetings. So with that, we have a motion to go into executive session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed?
Amen.
Entertain a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor can leave.
Hey, Bill, we need to meet with